Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us at Space Cowboy Books Online. I am your host, Jean-Paul Garnier, and tonight we have a special treat for Flash Science Fiction Night, stories from the pages of Radon Journal. We're going to have readers Aeryn Rudel, Jordan Hirsch, and Emma Burnett. But before we get to that, I'm going to hand it over to Casey Eme from Radon to say a few words.
Okay. So officially welcome everybody. So I'm the editor-in-chief of Radon Journal and very excited to hear, live in the virtual flesh for the first time, stories from Radon Journal's issues 7, 8, and 9, all in 2024. So currently the journal is gearing up to launch its 10th issue, June 1st, and we're excited, not only that we're reaching the double digits as a journal, but it'll be our first de-siloed journal issue where poetry and fiction kind of meld together into a single piece of art. And it'll be on print and online. But currently, the focus tonight is that we're pumped to hear from our authors directly, and we know that you are going to enjoy what you hear. So please do.
Thank you so much, Casey. First up, we have Aeryn Rudel. Aeryn is an author of the baseball horror novella, Effectively Wild, the Iron Kingdom's Acts of War novels, and the flash fiction collection, Nightwalk and Other Dark Paths. His short stories have appeared in Factor 4 magazine, On Spec, and Pseudopod, among others. He is a heavy metal nerd, a baseball geek, a sword dweeb, and knows more about dinosaurs than is healthy or socially acceptable.
Hi, everybody. My name's Aeryn Rudel. The story is called Thicker Than Water. Just a quick bit of background on it. Like most of my flash fiction, this one started life in a bi-weekly flash fiction contest that I've been doing for a good 10 years. Just a group of writers, someone posts a prompt, and you have 1 hour to write a flash fiction story. If I remember correctly, the prompt for this one was a picture of a tree in a cage. And since my mind goes to monsters, vampires, and post-apocalyptic in that order, this is a story about the vampire tree apocalypse. So this is thicker than water. The trees got Daphne last night. We camped in what I thought was a secure spot, an old garage with brick walls and a concrete floor. I'd paid careful attention to the trees lining the crumbling streets, their leaves gaudy crimson in the fading light, the corpses of raccoons and feral dogs ringing their trunks. They were maples and slash pines, no real threat unless you're relying on soft ground out in the open. In the garage, we'd found a cache of bottled water, enough to get us through a few days, maybe even a week if we were careful. We'd felt fortunate, blessed, and that fleeting moment of hope blinded me. I didn't see the oak behind the garage. In the night, it sent roots questing through the dirt like hungry worms, pushing through the concrete with slow, relentless strength. When I woke, the water bottles were split and drained. Daphne lay on a bed of cracked earth and the shredded remains of her sleeping bag, her skin pale as milk, roots twisting through her body like wooden tumors. I love Daphne as much as you can love anything at the end of the world. But I didn't scream or weep. I'm long past such things. When all the water dried up, so did my tears. The tree was keeping her alive while it fed, using the frenzied pumping of her heart to drain away every drop of blood. I hefted my axe and looked into her eyes, hoping to see some spark of the woman I loved, to say goodbye, to say I'm sorry. I saw nothing but terror. So I freed her from the tree freed her before the tree could consume what little life remained. The roots withdrew from Daphne's corpse in stiff, jerking movements, like those old films that speed up the frame rate to show plants leaning toward the sun. Of course, it's not just the sun they want. They need water too. And after human folly and greed turned oceans, rivers, and lakes into dust-choked wasteland, they had to adapt. Change from passive feeders to active hunters. The trees rapidly evolved to exploit the one source of water that was still abundant, gushing through our veins. They're too slow and too obvious when you're awake and moving, but you have to sleep sometime, and there are always roots beneath you. I thought about burying Daphne, then grimaced. If I put her in the ground, the trees would find her, drink the last drops of fluid, and turn her skin and bones into mulch. I couldn't allow that. They'd taken too much from us already. I had another idea, more fitting, more just. I picked up my axe again, a good felling model I'd found at an abandoned hardware store in Maine, and went out back. Someone had built an iron cage around the post oak. They did that in the beginning. Everyone thought we still needed the trees so the world didn't suffocate. Everyone thought we could just contain them. Laughable. I've seen an oak push roots through the undercarriage of a semi to get at the people inside, to get at their water. The oak behind the garage was small, barely topping 10 feet. Its placement probably didn't provide it many opportunities to feed, not until we came along. When I got back there, I wasn't surprised to see the oak's leaves were bright red with stolen vitality. That's one thing I just can't get used to. I remember a green planet, not this dry, bleeding husk. Now every forest, every jungle, every leaf swaying in the choked breeze of a parched earth is the color of a dying sun. I approached the oak. I'm sure it could sense me, feel the life pumping through me in thumps and gushes. Its roots had cracked the concrete around its cage and bent the bars outward. Some of them wriggled toward me, inching along the concrete. I stepped over them and pulled my knife from its sheath at my hip. The oak had a coppery stink, and beneath it I caught the whiff of Daphne. The combination of dirt, sweat, and the sweet herbal aroma of her favorite gum. Every time we'd scavenge an old grocery store for water and other supplies, she'd somehow find an unopened pack, neon green and reeking of mint. It was so uniquely her. Some people said the trees drank more than our blood. I didn't want to believe them. But there she was, her smell, Wrigley's double mint, blooming from the leaves of the tree like an old memory. I brought up my knife and pushed the point against the bark. I began to carve, working silently, putting my weight into the blade so my mark would last. When I finished, I stepped back, avoiding the nest of squiggling roots that had assembled at my feet. I smiled and discovered I had a few tears left. Into the oak's trunk, I had carved Daphne plus David. I put my knife away and picked up the axe. Its weight felt good in my hands. Its purpose felt right in my mind. I cleared the roots away first, hacking them into kindling, even as they stretched upward, drawn to the salty tears streaming down my face. Then I turned to the tree. I keep the axe sharp, and the first swing cut deep, showering me with bark. The coppery stench intensified as the sap flowed, but so did Daphne's precious scent. I swung again, breathing it in, letting the smell awaken memories of our time together, the sweet moments we shared, the kind words we spoke to one another in a lonely, cannibal world. When the oak toppled, the sound of its trunk splintering had a keening quality, like a long, groaning scream. Daphne's smell mercifully faded, and I chopped the oak into pieces to build her pyre. The end.
Thank you so much, Aeryn. Next up, we have Jordan Hirsch. Jordan Hirsch writes while occupying the ancestral and current homelands of the Dakota people, Minnesota. Her work has appeared in Strange Horizons, The Future Fire, and other venues. Her debut poetry chapbook, Both Worlds, is out with Bottle Cap Press. I'm going to hand it over to Jordan to read Still.
Thank you, Jean-Paul. I'm really excited to share this story with you all. The inspiration behind it was I was just getting so frustrated with so many stories of hearing people struggle with relationships with their parents, especially as they themselves transitioned, whether, that was, coming out as trans or walking away from their faith or embracing a new faith, all sorts of things. So I just found myself wanting to rewrite my friends' stories and take some of that pain away. So Still is the result of that. The kettle began to scream on the stove, and Angela couldn't have been more relieved. She took the kettle off the heat, its cry instantly calming an awkward silence. It had only been 10 minutes since her son had arrived, right at the time they'd agreed upon, but to Angela, it felt so much longer. He looked somewhat like himself, same height, same build, same eye color and hair color. They'd even built the little dimple into his chin. That must be an indication of the excellent craftsmanship the commercials were always advertising. They hadn't hugged when he'd arrived. Angela's hands had worried at the seam of her apron, while his were stuffed deep into the pockets of his dark jeans. Her son's hands, now fabricated skin to feel human, their warmth generated not from the homeostasis of a body surviving, but from the whirring of a machine. His hands were not the hands that had driven miniature backhoes through sandboxes, not the hands that hadn't quite been able to make sense of piano keys, but then had calloused from hours over guitar strings. They were not the hands that she'd held during the diagnosis and the treatment and the remission and the bad news that it was back and that it was so much worse. Angela had held her son's hand when he'd told her he'd elected to be relocated, that he would have his consciousness, his mind, his essence, his self, placed into an artificial body. She'd almost dropped his hand then, but she hadn't. She'd managed not to let go, and now he was here, or at least some semblance of him was here. This synthetic person sat in her kitchen, for the first time after months of therapy getting used to the new vessel he wore, and Angela had no idea how to be his mother. "How do you take your tea? Do you still drink tea?" she asked without looking up from the counter. She really meant, "Can you drink anything at all?" but didn't want to offend. She really meant, "Where did the tea go? And will the caffeine keep you up at night like it will me?" Really meant, "Do you need to eat at all? And will the food mess up your stomach? Do you have a stomach? And if you do, should I buy Gatorade or something completely different now for you? Will you still love my cooking? Will you still love me?" "Absolutely," he said. Angela pulled 2 mugs down from the cabinet, letting the wood laminate door slap loudly shut when she meant to use it closed. She pulled 2 tea infusers from a drawer, the little cages and chains jingling as she did, and she tried to steady her shaking hands as she poured the water, not wanting it to slosh. "2 sugars, please," her son said from behind her, and she nearly dropped the kettle. His voice wasn't exactly the same, though she was sure she was the only one who could tell the difference. The tone was slightly different, higher maybe, or possibly just lacking a bit of depth, but maybe that was her own organic bias. His voice was different, possibly, but she knew those words, had heard them 100 times. How often had they sat in this kitchen, at this green vinyl-covered table, with their hot drinks and talked about his music, about the books she'd been reading, about the world going to hell in a handbasket thanks to capitalism, about how they both ached deeply with missing his late father. And each time, 2 sugars, please. Angela put 2 cubes in his cup, 1 in hers, and turned to her son. "Here you are, Matthew," she said, placing cup and saucer in front of him. For the first time since he'd arrived, she met his eyes and didn't immediately look away. He smiled a familiar smile. How beautifully familiar. "I'm so glad you're here," she said. And even though she hadn't said it, they both knew she meant still, and that was okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jordan. Next up, we are going to have Emma Burnett. Emma Burnett is a UK researcher and writer. She has stories in Nature, Futures, Mythaxis, Northern Gravy, Apex, Radon, Utopia, Metastellar, Milk Candy Review, Jake, and more. And this evening, she is going to be sharing a story with us called Softer Shades of Zap and Blue.
So, Emma is currently asleep in the UK, being a busy researcher and writer, but we are lucky enough that she chose to pre-record for her issue 8 story, so we'll get that queued up in just a quick second for you.
Softer shades of sap and blue. There is a soldier lying on the ground, not fully dead. One zap and it stops moving. Job done. There, another soldier, and another. The battle has been messy, inefficient. Now the battlefield needs a cleanup. This is the role of a cleaner-upper. Another zap. There is a soldier still standing, suddenly behind, and it shoots, hits a leg before any cleaner-upper can prevent it. But there are 7 more legs, and no falling ensues. A quick scuttle on the 7 remaining, and a zap from a foreleg, and the soldier is down on the ground, motionless. A follow-up zap, just to be sure. There is goo dripping out of the missing leg space, so return to base camp is necessary. The goo inside is blue, and it is unclear why. This is not in the memory files. The insides have never been outside, except on soldiers, and those are mostly shades of red. Repairs ensue. A replacement fitted at the top leg socket. The goo remains inside. Why are the insides blue? What is the function? This question is transmitted to the technician. It glances at the screen, at the question. It shrugs and tightens another leg bolt. There are only 12 cleaner-uppers released into the battle. There were 30 in the last battle. Prior memory erased. The commander sends a note around. Cleaner-uppers are important. Cleaner-uppers are targets. Cleaner-uppers are being captured by the enemy. Soldiers are playing dead and zapping on arrival. Do not get captured. There is a broken cleaner-upper on the ground, but its insides are not visible. A soldier lies pinned underneath. It is panting and groaning and pulling at its own legs. A quick zap keeps the soldier from grabbing its gun. Red comes out of its shoulder, along with a scream from the mouth. Do all zappers have blue insides, and all soldiers have red insides? This is unclear. More data is needed. The soldier lies there, clutching its shoulder. Its legs are freed, but useless, flattened, burnt. Another zap and the soldier is still. Red insides become outsides. Job done. On the battlefield, there is an unfamiliar cleaner-upper. It has a stripe of blue paint on it. No familiar cleaner-upper has paint on its carapace. This one has been captured. It has been marked. It targets a soldier on the ground, stands over it, touches a leg to the soldier, then another. Soon, the soldier stands, nods, pats the unfamiliar painted cleaner-upper. It is less dead, and it limps away. There is a streak of blue goo on its leg. The painted cleaner-upper is an enemy. It should be shot with a zap, but it provokes curiosity when it moves to another soldier. More blue comes out of its, not a zapper, leg, and the soldier's moaning and writhing stops. This one is not dead, but it can't stand, and 2 of the cleaner-upper's extra arms are useful for carrying. There are extra arms for lifting. This has been established. All soldiers are red inside. This has been established. It is more informative to search the unmoving cleaner-uppers. There are 7 still active, released after a move from one battlefield to another. New location, same job. It is the unmoving cleaner-uppers that provide information. If the insides show, it is easy. If they don't, a zap or a pull or a cut to open the carapace confirms. Blue comes out of a foreleg that is not a zapper. Blue does not burn. This is copied to long-term memory. Test. Blue squirts out of a leg, squirts down onto a soldier on the ground. It has no gun and can't run. Blue squirts onto a patch of red on its torso, and the soldier gasps. Then it sighs and starts to inch backwards. It is not dead. It is less dead. This is copied to long-term memory. The zapper has been turned up to the highest settings, has been rechecked by technicians on instructions of the commander. But it is easy to turn down using a carrying arm. When it's turned down, it's less of a high zap dead and more of a soft zap heat. This has been tested on leaves and unmoving carapaces and dead soldiers. It has been established that there is blue on the inside which can come out and which doesn't burn, and that a zapper turned up to high can be turned back down. There are carrying legs. There are tools in other legs of unknown purpose. Perhaps the purpose was known once. This is not in long-term memory. Watching other cleaner-uppers, the painted other side cleaner-uppers that are actually fixer-uppers, shows that they can be used for making repairs on soldiers. This is now copied to long-term memory. There are only 4 cleaner-uppers left, and many more on the other side, painted, scuttling onto the battlefield, although there is little to do. Soldiers are repaired and taken off the battlefield before they can be zapped, and cleanup jobs cannot be completed. The commander sends a message in all capital letters. Attack! Do not submit to enemy capture. There is a troop carrier on the far side of the field, and its hatch is wide open. The light shining out is a bright white. Repaired soldiers and fixer-uppers move up and down a ramp. It is easy to use a carrying arm to turn up the zapper to full power. One of the remaining cleaner-uppers is unmoving. It is zapped and breaks open. A carrying arm reaches into the cleaner-upper's goo, paints a stripe of healing blue across the carapace. Then the zapper is turned back down to soft. It is not capture if it is voluntary.
Thank you so much. That was Emma Burnett with Softer Shades of Zap and Blue. Before that, you heard Jordan Hirsch with Still, and opening the show was Aeryn Rudel with Thicker Than Water, all stories from the pages of Radon Journal. Thank you so much to our audience for joining us. Thank you to our authors for your wonderful stories. Next Flash Science Fiction Night will be coming up on June 10th with featured authors Jonathan Navarre, Todd Sullivan, and Tanya R. Moore. Thank you so much for supporting speculative fiction, and we hope to see you next time, everybody.